everyone, MeltingMan234 here, and welcome to another episode of Forgotten Media, where I dig up some stuff you may or may not have heard of. Today we'll be looking at an old forgotten video game character known as Gex the Gecko, an anthropomorphic wisecracking gecko that was usually known as the mascot for Crystal Dynamics. The character had 3 games, and a comedian named Donna Gold provided the voice of Gex for all 3 games in the US. So let's start off with the first game, simply known as Gex, a 2D platformer game that was released somewhere in 1994. The game was available for the 3DO, PC, PlayStation, and the Sega Saturn. The story for the game was that Gex and his family lived in Maui, Hawaii, and his father works for NASA. One day, his mother is informed that his father was killed in a rocket explosion. As his family mourns his loss, Gex keeps his feelings bottled up and starts watching television to get over the tragic death of his father. 3 weeks later, Gex becomes addicted to television, becoming more of a couch potato. After his family tried numerous times to try and get Gex to stop watching TV, the family decides to move to Econ, California, leaving the television behind. Gex later runs away from his family, and after living in the streets for months, by good fortune, he inherits his uncle's money and uses it to buy a mansion and the largest television set. One day, while enjoying his TV, he swallows a fly that was actually a transmitter, and he gets pulled into the TV by a massive claw. It turns out the claw belongs to Rez, an evil overlord who plans to take over the TV media and uses Gex as his mascot. Now Gex must travel to various worlds in the media dimension and destroy Rez and get back home. The goal in the game is to collect TV remotes and other stuff to unlock the next level and later fight Rez. Each level has its own style of levels, such as the Cemetery, the New Toontown, Jungle Isle, Kung Fu-ville, and Rezopolis. Gex has a couple of neat moves, such as the tail whip, his tongue to help grab power-ups, and the ability to climb on walls just like a real gecko. Gex has been known for making many references to TV medias and pop culture, with his wisecracking attitude. The game was pretty much a classic and became the best game for the 3DO of 1995. Next up is Gex Enter the Gecko, or Gex 64, or simply called Gex 2. A 3D platformer that was released in 1998 for the PlayStation, N64, PC, and the Game Boy Color. In this sequel, Gex has returned to spending his days watching television until 2 government agents arrive at his place to report that Rez is back and plans to take over the TV industry once again. And it's up to Gex to head back to the media dimension once again to stop Rez's evil plans. The goal was to collect TV remotes and other stuff to proceed to the next level, just like in the first game. The game would feature Gex going around through various levels from Toon TV to Screen TV and other media-themed levels. What makes this game interesting is that Gex changes costumes to fit the mood of the environment that he's in. Gex has his usual abilities, such as the tail whipping and his tongue attack, and climbing up walls, even though the climbing wall ability only works on certain areas. The power-ups have been cut down for some odd reasons, since there were a lot of cool power-ups in the first game. But overall, it was a good game that tossed Gex from 2D into the 3D of gaming. One of the interesting things about this is that once you defeat Rez, he announces that he is Gex's father by saying he fell into a scrap heap attempting to get free cable. It's still debatable if this is true or not. Most people think it was a spoof of Star Wars, but others say that Rez actually is Gex's father. Yes, that's one question we'll never find the answer to. And finally, there's Gex 3, Undercover Gecko, that was released in 1999 for the PlayStation, N64, and the Game Boy Color. The story for this game is that Rez has returned yet again and has kidnapped Agent Extra, played by Marlise Andrada. And it's up to Gex to save her and defeat Rez once and for all. Unlike the other games, where they usually had more of a colorful look, this game kicks it up a notch, and the design of the game is given more of a darker look, but still keeping with the Gex style, and it's the first Gex game to get a teen rating for the PlayStation because of its sexual jokes. This was later toned down for the N64 and Game Boy Color ports. The game had its usual tail whip, tongue, and climbing wall ability, just like the last one, and this time giving new power-ups such as the ability to glide. The levels kept on their TV media purpose, and there's even one level that features stuff from anime cartoons back then, and I think that's pretty cool. Out of the entire trilogy, Gex 3 has been known for being the best-selling Gex game, even though there's one guy who has a flaming hatred for it. During the release of Gex 3, there was going to be a line of action figures that were planned to be made by Restosaurus, the same company who made the Crash Bandicoot figures, and for some odd reason, none of the figures were released. Gex has had a few merchandising, mostly strategy guides, and even a book that teaches you how to draw Gex and the gang. Even though Gex only has 3 games, he surprisingly appears as an unlockable character in Hot Shot Golf 2. After a couple of years after Gex 3, Crystal Dynamics had plans to make a 4th Gex game for the PlayStation 2, but for some unknown reason, the game was cancelled and never made it. These 2 pieces of concept art are all that exist of Gex 4. It's a real shame that Gex was going to be coming back, but since the 4th game was cancelled, Gex will probably never see the light of day again. As for the Gex games nowadays, sometimes it's a real challenge to find all 3 of them. Recently, Gex 1 and 3 have been released for the PlayStation Network, and there are plans to release Gex 2 on the PSN on August 24th, 2011. Let's just hope nobody hacks into the PSN system again. In closing, Gex had a lot of successful games, and he's pretty much the video game mascot that doesn't earn the respect that he deserves. Well, that wraps up this episode of Forgotten Media, so this is Melting Man 234 signing out.